So, bonsoir, good evening. Just before we start, as Mr. Mayor said, we're a Francophone city, so all our meetings are held in French. So if you need translation devices, there are some in the back of the room. Um, However, the question period at the end, you can ask your questions in either official language and we will respond in the language that the question was asked. Donc, bonsoir. Mon nom est Angèle Spencer. Je suis directrice
Good
générale adjointe
evening. My name is Angèle Spencer, and I'm Assistant to CEO for responsible for public safety. I'm accompanied by His Worship, Mayor Lapierre, and his colleagues, and I'm going to explain all of the major changes that have been affecting you since January 1st. The presentation should last about 45 minutes, and then we'll have a question period. So uh, Your Worship, you have the floor. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming out here this evening. It's very much appreciated. We're very pleased to welcome you into your City Hall. It belongs to all of us individually. We all pay for this space. And I hope that we'll see you here often to get information, to ask questions, to make sure that you understand all of the changes that are being implemented in our community along with you. Municipal council is made up of one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine people, nine people on council. There's the mayor and four councillors, eight councillors. There are three councillors that we call at large. So there are three councillors at large, and we have five ward councillors. Each one of the wards, well, let me explain. The municipality is divided up into five wards, and unfortunately, as a matter of fact, there was a misunderstanding between council members and the administration, things that happen occasionally. And right now, as we speak, only one councillor is here present. That's Councillor Godet, who is here representing Ward 5. The representative of Ward 4, we're waiting for him. He was at a meeting outside the city. He should be arriving. Oh, this is Councillor Ernest Thibodeau. He should be arriving within the next 15 or 20 minutes, I believe. And the other councillors, unfortunately, as I mentioned, there was a little bit of a misunderstanding, a lack of communication, and it was really too late by the time we gave them the invitation. It was too late for them to change their own personal schedules, and we do apologize for that. As I mentioned, in in Ward 4, I'm not sure if it has been defined, if it has been determined which ward you will be in it, but Ward 4 is represented by Ernest Thibodeau, and Councillor Godet is representative for Ward 5, and he's here present this evening. Now, when we talk about municipal council, well, the role of council is to work towards the improvement of the community. That is always the primary objective. We always have to look forward and improve the community. And we're very pleased to see that our community has just grown. There might be some people who are not as pleased, but for us, we're very delighted to welcome you within our ranks as citizens here of Dieppe. We will give you a information sheet at the end of the evening to allow you to explain to you the how to contact your ward counselors. And we've already given you the names of your ward counselors. They are here or should be here. Councillor Thibodeau should be arriving shortly. Now, I was asked to mention that the next elections, municipal elections will be held in May 2026. And this is because of the changes that occurred in the province. They wanted to give a chance to all of the new communities that have been annexed, just to give them time to get organized and settle down before we move on to municipal elections. Generally, it's a 4-year term. So, but the province chose to delay the next elections. Normally, they would have been held in May 2025, but they will be held in May 2026 instead. Currently, well, no, that's all I wanted to present to you myself, but I know we do have a very special guest here this evening. The Deputy Minister, the Deputy Minister of Municipal Affairs, Ryan Donahue, is here. He was one of the architects of the changes as a deputy minister. Ryan is very familiar with this region. He grew up just on the other side of the 15. He grew up in that area in Moncton, but he's very familiar with the whole area. And he's going to say a few words.
Et voilà, un gros merci.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It still does not allow me to turn on my camera, but that's fine. As long as you can hear me, that's the most important thing. Well, I'll start as soon as I can see the slides. But first of all, I'd like to thank you all for coming out here this evening. There we go. I'm going to show you a few slides just to talk to you about the reform and the why of the reform. And there are a number of services that the province will continue to deliver. And so I'll explain those. Can you see the slides? Okay, so first of all, why this reform process? Well, we did have a structure that was very fragmented in the province. There were unequal services, not only between LSDs and municipalities, but between municipalities. So we changed the local structure and the regional structure. We had a eroded capacity in terms of human and financial resources. And we had a system of property tax that was seen as being unfair and lacking in transparency. So we propose these changes that make it much more transparent for the population.
Alors, la vision derrière la réforme, c'était pour
Now, the vision behind this was to create dynamic and sustainable communities in order to improve the quality of life of the New Brunswickers. And here, there are a number of reforms, specific reforms under each one of the 4 pillars. First of all, the first pillar, structures, was to ensure the viability and the sustainability of the communities. So for you, that means annexing a part of the LSD to the local municipality here in Dieppe. We have seen the same situation throughout the province, and we've also reinforced regional cooperation And in the southeast, more specifically, you have a regional service commission, an RSC, that works very well, that cooperates very well. So we'll see further development in that sector in years to come. Now, the land use planning, there's been changes there because the the whole plan will have a land use plan by 2028 to ensure fair taxation. So we've brought about some changes on the taxation side, but also on the equalization side. Next slide, please. We'll go over this one very quickly just to show you the structure. We went from 340 local entities to 89. 77 of them are local governments, including the city of Dieppe. Now, in terms of the different structures, yes, there are the local governments. The city of Dieppe, for example, was established by the Local Governments Act and under its regulations, but there are also rural districts that have been created. The areas that are more rural are now structured as local rural districts. They are unincorporated. They still have advisory councils, but the surface area of the old LSDs will now have elected representatives in municipal elections as councils and mayors of cities like Yep. And we also have the regional service commissions as well. So these are the different structures. And we're showing this to explain the difference between each one. For the city, you are an incorporated entity, you have elected officials that don't come under the province. Now, the services that will remain with the province, well, through the minister, we are we remain responsible for service delivery for certain services, for example, for waste management for over the next year. So in all of the LSDs that are joining municipalities or that have created municipalities, we've signed contracts. There is a contract that is until the end of January 2024, at which point the city of Dieppe will assume the responsibility for that. Roads in the former local service districts that are now part of Dieppe, it's the same thing. For all of the unincorporated areas, the road snow removal and maintenance will remain the responsibility of the province through the DTI, and the way that you pay for this service will not change. Those who are here in the room, if you're from the former LSD, you pay 41 cents currently. That's for roads and road maintenance. You will continue to pay that. If you if you live in an apartment building, for example, or if you have a, a, a business, you don't pay that 41 cents. Now, police services, that will remain under contract with the province until at least January 1st, 2024. We have to give the federal government notice, but we also have to negotiate with the federal government before we can change the way police services are managed. So it will still be the RCMP, though Kodiak will be responsible for the Dieppe part, and the provincial RCMP will be responsible for the other sectors that are joining Dieppe. So you don't have to worry about it this year. You won't notice a difference. It'll still be RCMP, but administratively speaking, there will be a difference. Now, all the other services will be offered by the city of Dieppe. That's a little different throughout the province. Certain fire protection services will remain the responsibility of this province. But in this case here, the city was already offering the service, and as well as a number of other services that you see on this slide. So on that, I'm going to give the floor back to the mayor or to Marc. And thank you once again for having listened to me for these few minutes this evening. Thank you, Ryan. And perhaps just a clarification, it's the January 1st, 2024, right? 2023 is already started for the police contract? Yes, absolutely. I just wanted to confirm, yes, as of January 1st, 2024,
Ryan,
the
yes, ça va
police
très bien.
service. Yes, thank you.
Enlever le muet, alors.
Yeah,
Donc,
sorry that I wasn't
merci
able to open up my mic myself,
absolument.
but thank you for that
Ça
correction.
va être
Yes,
échangé
it
le mois
it
passé.
it
C'est le
it
1er
wasn't
janvier.
changed last month. No, it'll be
OK,
until
merci beaucoup,
January 1st,
Ryan. Merci
2024.
de nous avoir
Thank you, Ryan, and thank you
permis d'être
for
avec vous ce
having
soir. On sait
come
que
here
vous
this
êtes
evening.
très
We
occupé.
know
Je sais
that
que vous
you're
avez
very
d'autres rencontres
busy,
ce soir à
and I
l'Office du
think you had
tourisme.
another meeting scheduled for
Voilà
this evening
l'exposition.
already.
Alors,
So
c'est un
thank you
grand
for
nous
being here.
apprécier
It's really
cette soirée.
appreciated
Et je suis certain
by
que
all
tous
of
les gens
us.
ici présents dans
And
la
I'm
salle
sure that people here in the
apprécient
room
les explications bien intéressées
appreciate your
qui sont
explanations
passées.
as well. Thank you once again.
Alors, mon nom est Marc
So
Melançon. Je
my
suis
name is
directeur des
Marc
relations
Melançon,
publiques
and
à
I'm
Dieppe.
CAO
Ça fait
here
un
of
grand
Dieppe.
plaisir, comme
So I'm really
secrétaire général
pleased
attitré, qu'on vous
to
accueille
be
ici ce soir.
here to welcome you
Pour
here
certaines personnes,
this
c'est la
evening.
deuxième fois
As
que vous êtes
the
ici.
mayor explained, for some
Pour
of you, it's already
parler
your second
de
time here
développement
this
du
evening. You were
territoire
here
qui
to
était
talk about the land
initié par
use
le service de planification
development offered by the city planning
et
department.
on vous
And this
présente
evening,
les
we're
services
here to
déjà
present
et beaucoup plus de
the
détails
different
qu'on aurait pu donner là
services
au mois
that
de
we
décembre.
offer and a number
Beaucoup
of
d'entrées
details
en
that we
place.
couldn't give
On
you
serait
in
très heureux de
December
partager cette
because things
information
have been implemented.
et
So now we
ça
can
sera
share
suivi de
certain
réactions
information with you.
qui se passent. Alors,
I don't want to put him on
alors
the
bonsoir,
spot, but
Monsieur
Councillor
le
Thibodeau
conseiller
just
du
walked in.
quartier
Good
4.
evening,
C'est un
Councillor of
plaisir de
Ward
vous avoir
4.
avec nous.
So you're welcome to
Alors,
join us.
durant la soirée,
So over
certaines
the course
personnes
of
vont
the
exposer
evening, a
les
number of
services
people of
et
my team
services de détail.
will
Alors, on pense
explain
qu'il
the
y a
different
certaines
services to
informations qui
you.
étaient très
We think
importantes
that
de
there is
partager ce
some
soir.
information that was very
Alors,
important to
il y a
share with
4
you
personnes qui
this
vont
evening. Four
accueillir au
people
moment
will be
d'aller au
presenting,
micro
one
et
after the other,
expliquer que ce soit les
and
finances,
they
les
will
loisirs
present the
et les
finances, the
administrations, etc.
different
On
bylaws,
va prendre le temps de vous
recreation,
expliquer
and we'll take the time
services
then to
qu'on
explain all of
offre
these
depuis le
services
1er
that
janvier.
we have been
Juste pour
offering
faire un
since
sommaire
January
de tout
1st.
l'ensemble des
But just
services,
to
parce que
give you a quick
ça touche à
summary
plusieurs
of
secteurs.
all of these
Euh,
services,
Maintenant que le livre
first of
blanc
all,
est entré
now
sous
that the
régime
white
de Dieppe
paper has been
intégré à la
adopted, you
communauté
are
de Dieppe,
now a part
on
of
vous
the
offre les
community of
services de
Dieppe.
loisirs,
We'd like to
les
offer you
services
our recreation
d'aspect qui s'ajoutent.
services.
Pour vous,
What
c'est
is
que
new
vous
for
avez
you here
l'opportunité de vous
is that
inscrire
you
comme
can
les résidents de Dieppe à
take advantage of early
Avant, il y avait une
registration
période de 2, 3 jours.
like
Maintenant,
all
les gens
other
peuvent le faire en
residents of
avance.
Dieppe.
Maintenant, vous
Before
êtes
you had to
disponible
wait
jusqu'à
an extra
le
two or
12
three days, but now you
juin.
can register
Aussi,
early
le
like
service
all
de
other
permis de
residents of
construction.
Dieppe.
Alors, ça, c'est
There's
des services
also
qu'on pourrait
a
expliquer un
building
peu plus tard,
permit
mais c'est vraiment
service,
un
and we'll get
service
into
qui
that
permet de
later, but there
savoir
is a service that allows
les
you
règles à suivre
to
et de
obtain a
respecter
building
tout le
permit
long
as long
du
as you
service.
have, there's
Le
rules
service
to follow, of
d'incendie,
course,
le
and
volet
bylaws.
éducatif. Alors,
Now
les
there's the
préventions,
fire services, fire
avec
protection
les
services,
intervenants
and
sur le
the
territoire.
information. That's a
On a les
part of the
parcs
services.
sentiers et
We
les
have
espaces verts.
parks,
Alors, je sais que
trails,
vous
and
allez
green
avoir des questions sur
spaces,
ces
and I'm
sujets,
sure
donc
you'll have
ça va un peu
questions
plus.
on
Et tous
those.
les services administratifs
All of the
aussi, on va
administrative
vous donner
services as well.
quelques-uns.
I'm only going to
Alors,
name a
vous
few
voulez
that you
savoir
might
planification,
hear
communication,
about urban
technologie
planning,
informatique qu'on offre
communication,
soit par la communication.
information
Alors, ça peut vous
technology
permettre
that we're
d'avoir
using
accès
here this
aux ressources
evening on
humaines,
Zoom, human
immigration,
resources,
l'environnement,
immigration,
le tourisme
environment,
et certains
tourism,
autres services
and a
associés.
number of
Alors,
other
tous les services
services. So
de
these are
l'administration
all
permettent
of the
à nos
services
citoyens, qui
offered
permettent de
by
donner une
the
vision, une
administration
approche
to our citizens that allow
variée
us to have
et
a
de faire
productive
développer et
approach
évoluer notre
and
pays.
to help our municipality develop
On a
and
aussi
grow.
des gens, une équipe
We
pour les
also
inspecteurs de bâtiments.
have a
Alors,
building
les inspecteurs
inspector
sont en place.
team.
On a
When there
des
is
personnes qui vont
development, we have
faire des
people
inspections
who
pour
have to
protéger
go
l'intérêt de nos
inspect
citoyens.
the
Alors, pour
buildings in
tout ce qui
order
est
to protect
propriété, on veut s'assurer que toutes les
the
règles
rest
ont
of
été
the
mises en
citizens.
place.
When you
Les
buy a
règlements
property, we want to make
et
sure all of the laws and regulations are respected, and so we send out an inspector to make sure
Alors
that
ça, c'était
everything
un
has
peu le
been
sommaire
followed.
de tout
So
l'ensemble des
that is an
services
overview
qu'on offre.
of
Maintenant,
a
nous
very
avons
high
la
level
première personne qui
overview
va
of
nous
all of the
parler aujourd'hui,
services.
c'est
Now, the
Monsieur
first
Stéphane
person who
Thériault,
is
vous
going to
le
come talk
savez.
to you is Stéphane
Lui,
Thériault. He's
il
our
parle de l'aspect
treasurer.
financier.
He's going to talk to you about the
Ryan a touché
finances.
un peu
I know
également.
Ryan mentioned it.
On a touché un peu avec le
He
41 cents
he
aussi,
talked
mais
about the
c'est des
41
informations qui
cents
seront
that
plus en détail
certain people pay,
avec
but
Stéphane.
where
Alors,
you're going to
Stéphane,
get a few more details
je laisse
now.
le micro.
Stéphane, you have the floor.
OK,
Thank you, Marc. And as Marc just mentioned, my name is Stéphane Thériault, and I'm Director of Finances or Treasurer. And I'm going to talk to you about numbers. And I'm sure this is something that's going to affect you all. So I'm going to talk about the tax rate mostly. something that does affect us all. My objective this evening is to help you understand how this was calculated. And in the information package you received this document. These are the concepts established by the province to allow us, the treasurers, to calculate the tax rate. And what I'm going to explain to you this evening is taken from this document. Now, a municipality, in a municipality, normally everybody would have the same tax rate. It doesn't matter what services you use, whether you use the bus or not, whether you go to the arena, the pool, or whatever. Everybody has the same tax rate normally. Now, right now, we're in this transition phase because of the fact that the province is going to continue to offer certain services like the road maintenance, as Ryan mentioned earlier. So we have to remove that portion from our taxes that we charge you. And secondly, the province is asking us to set a tax rate for you, but spread over a period of 5 years. So because your tax rate is going to go up, but we're going to spread it out over 5 years, and I'll explain that in more detail. Now, here in the city, the current tax rate is $1.46. That is the tax rate paid by all the citizens of Dieppe before annexation. So that's what people pay here in Dieppe. This year, the province asked us to divide it up into two, for example, a part for local services and another part for shared services. By shared services, I mean everybody pays for those, compared to local services are those that are only paid for by the residents of the former municipality of Dieppe before annexation. And I'm going to show you some figures here just to give you an idea of what I mean. So it's $1.46 in total. Now there are 76 cents here that everybody has to pay in the city of Dieppe, the former residents of the residents of the former city. But because your rate was so low or much lower in the past, we're going to raise it, but over a period of 5 years. So what you're going to pay, whether you are in Greater Lakeburn or in Scoudouc, would be 54 cents or 46, almost 47 cents on the tax rate. That's the municipal part, if you will. Now, as well, you can see that there's a 41 cents that applies to you. That's the provincial part. The province is going to maintain roads and highways, and that's what the province is going to charge you. So your tax rate for in 2023, let's say, would be about 95 cents for the residents of Greater Lakeburn and 88 cents for Scoudouc, compared to the Dieppe residents who will pay 146. So that's overall. Now I'll give you a few more details. Well, the slide is supposed to come up. So here we go, shared services. This is everybody shares these services. Everybody pays the same amount. And what does this include? Well, there's about 17 cents that goes to administrative services. That's mostly salaries, except for transportation. Transportation is not included. That's taken out because it's paid by the province. Now, recreation and leisure, the parks, the pool, and so on, that's 26 cents. Emergency measures, here we're talking about fire protection, police services, fire protection. Well, that won't change. That'll be the same thing. The city of Dieppe will continue to offer that service. Police services, as Ryan mentioned, it'll be the province that will be offering the service, but they will bill us back. So that's why we have to get it, charge it to you to then pay it back to the province. And that's about 35 cents. And then there's planning, development, waste collection. Once again, the province is going to continue to offer you the service, but then the province is going to bill us for it. So we have to go get the money from you to then return it to the province. So, but the amount is going to be reduced by almost 11 cents. This is the shared services. So all of the building permit revenues, pool, the arenas, these are revenues that we will receive, and that drops the tax rate to give a total of 76 cents. Now, for local services, these are the services that you will not be paying for yet. Now, here there's roads and highways. For us, that's about 23 cents out of our $1.46 overall tax rate. There's a small amount, almost 5 cents, that's the transfers of cost for water. In the city here, we have two different budgets. We have the general operating budget on the one hand, that's where we have all of our general expenses and so on. But then there's also a water and sewer budget. You won't get a bill for your water and sewers because you don't have the service. But when we buy water from the city of Moncton through that budget, part of that water is used by the fire services. Part of that is used by public works when they do a wash of the whole system. So a lot of water is lost. And so the general budget pays a certain amount to the water and sewer budget, and that's about almost 5 cents here. So you will not be paying that. Now the debt, the next two items here, the debt. The residents of the city of Dieppe, of the former city before annexation, pay about 15 cents for servicing the debt. For you, because you're just arriving now, you're not going to pay that. You're not going to pay for any of that debt. But future debts, you will be paying on. But future debts, well, it won't be until 2 years from now, because at this point, we borrow, if we borrow, but before we get the money, we're going to start, before we get the money and start paying it back, it takes about 2 years. So that's going to start in about 2 years. And we're not talking about 15 cents right away. It might start with 1 cent, 2 cents, 3 cents, but it won't be 15 cents right away. This 15 cents is for the total debt service. You would only be paying a tiny portion of that. Operating capital, that's about the same thing. This is the money we take from the budget in order to pay for capital projects. And by that, I mean building roads, building trails. When we build an arena, all of that are capital projects, all of those. And so we take money from the budget in order to pay those cash. But once again, you will not pay for that at this point. However, over the years, a small part will increase for you, a small part of that. Anything that is not transportation, you will pay, but it'll be very minimal because most of it is transportation. And then others, 4 cents, well, that's a transfer to the reserve, subsidies, bylaw enforcement. That's not a major cost. And there's a small 2.5 cents, 2.6 cents that is subtracted for local revenues. So that's 69 cents, almost 70 cents that the residents of Dieppe pay currently that you will not have to pay at this point. And earlier I mentioned that we have a 5-year catch-up plan. So in 2022, the tax rate, your tax rate last year was 49 cents and 39 cents for Greater Lake Burn and Scoudouc. We want to bring that up to about 77 cents. And this is what I have calculated as of today, based on today's data, based on the information received by the province. I set it at about 77 cents. If nothing changes over the next 5 years, we should end up with a 77-cent rate by 2027. But I can guarantee you that things will change between now and then. But the principle will remain the same. Before we get there, we will spread it out over 5 years. So it'll take a certain amount of time, but here you see, so year 1, year 2, year 3, 4, and 5. I'm trying to write with my left hand here. So it'll take 5 years before we reach the same level of that everybody pays for shared services. And that's all for me for this evening.
Maintenant, je laisse la parole à Stéphane Simard.
So now I will give the floor to Stéphane Simard.
Merci Stéphane. Donc,
Thank you,
Stéphane
Stéphane. So I'm the assistant clerk
Mon rôle est beaucoup rattaché
here at the city of Dieppe. So my role is mostly related to bylaws, access to information. So I work with the municipal council as well. And we're going to talk about
Donc,
the
la
bylaws
situation
here.
telle qu'elle est présentée actuellement, c'est que
So the current situation is that
sont pas encore applicables
the
sur
Dieppe
notre
bylaws
territoire,
are not
à moins qu'il y ait
do
des
not apply
exceptions
on your
qui
new
surviennent.
territory
Normalement,
unless
c'est que
there are a
à
few
mesure qu'il va y
situations
avoir
that
des
arise.
adoptions d'arrêtés
So
sur
when
là, vont
the
devenir
bylaws are
applicables
adopted,
sur nos
they
territoires.
will become
Quant aussi
enforced
aux
on your
procédés de
territory.
modification
And
des
also,
arrêtés,
if there are
on va
any
décider
amendments
d'adopter
by the
ce
bylaws,
processus-là.
we will need to
Comment
think
qu'on va
about this
décider
process and how
j'appelle ça les nouveaux territoires.
we will
Donc,
deal
ça
with
va
the
faire
new
l'objet
territory.
complètement, bon, certainement d'une analyse par moi, l'équipe, puis le conseil
So my
municipal.
team and the municipal council will need
Et
to
une autre
analyze that
façon de rendre
situation.
les
And the
arrêtés
third
applicables
way that the
sur,
bylaws
sur l'ensemble du territoire,
can
c'est par
become
déclaration par
applicable
le conseil
is
district de
through a declaration by council that says that the bylaw is applicable in the new territory. And just to give you an idea, there are 82 bylaws that are
sont pas toutes,
enforceable.
ils vous concernent pas tous, là. Exemple, il y a
They
des
are
arrêtés
all not they're not
qui
necessarily
ne
all
servent pas
relevant
pour
to
certaines villes
you.
de la ville
For
actuellement,
example,
ça
some
ne vous
are
concerne pas
to
vraiment,
fund
mais il y en a
some
une autre aussi
works on some streets,
qui peut
but
aussi vous intéresser, puis je vous
there
donnerai
are
quelques
some
exemples.
that could be interesting, and I will provide
Les
you with a
arrêtés,
few examples later.
comment ça devient effectif,
So
comment ça entre
how
en vigueur, c'est assez
what
simple.
is the procedure to adopt a bylaw? Well, it's
Ça
quite
semble un peu
simple. So we
assez
prepare a
monolithique.
text and it
Et
looks like a
puis,
legislation.
les
It's
membres du
a
conseil
form of
municipal
municipal
peuvent
legislation, and
pendant, à
council
l'occasion de quelques
members can
réunions
read this bylaw. So
traiter
this lasts over
donc,
two
à la
meetings.
première
Usually it's
réunion,
two
vont faire
consecutive meetings. So
la
during the
lecture
first
par titre
meeting,
seulement de l'arrêté.
it will be the reading by title of the bylaw, and
Par rapport à l'arrêté.
at that opportunity, they can
Et
provide some
à la réunion
information about the
suivante, le
bylaw, and
conseil
during the
municipal
following meeting, the
mentionne la
council
lecture
will read
de
the
l'arrêté
whole
du
bylaw
sommaire.
in its entirety, or it can also be read by
Le
summary.
sommaire du
So
texte
the
de
word
l'arrêté.
says it's a
Il y
summary
a une
of the
quatrième lecture
text
par
of
le
the
conseil
bylaw,
municipal. Puis
and
une fois que c'est
then
fait, en sortant de la réunion, techniquement, il
once
reste à
this
publier,
procedure is done,
à l'enregistrer au bureau du greffier. Puis
the bylaw
le
is
greffier va
recorded at the
publier
clerk's office, and then the bylaw
selon les
can
règles
become
qui ont été mises dans
enforceable.
cet arrêté-là.
And it's according to the regulations that are
Donc,
provided in the
comment on est au
bylaw.
courant de ce
So how
processus-là?
can
Ben, en général,
we
c'est
be
assez simple.
aware of those changes? Well,
Le
generally it's quite
processus de quatre
simple.
lectures se déroule
The
sur environ un
four
mois.
readings
Donc,
process, it lasts
pendant cette
over a
période-là,
month
il est
or
possible
over a
de
month period.
participer
And
à toutes
during
les réunions
this
si
period,
la
you
lecture
can attend the
semble
meetings if
intéressante
the bylaw
vous pouvez en prendre connaissance aussi au bureau du greffier. Là, il y a
is of any concern for you. And there are also notices
de,
at the clerk's office that are given
de
out.
la prochaine adoption d'un arrêté, puis ça vous permet de vous tenir au courant puis de le
And
consulter. Normalement,
you
sur le
can be
site
made
web
aware of
aussi.
this, and it's usually
Vous
posted
pouvez
on the
voir
website
l'ordre
as
définitif
well.
des
And
réunions
you
dans
can
quel
see
moment
it
on va parler de
on
tel
the
arrêté.
council's agenda when we will talk
Une
about
fois cette
a
ordre
certain
définitif
bylaw,
est
and
consulté,
it's also in the minutes.
on peut
Those
initialiser
are
le
official
processus
documents that we are
disponible sur le site
that are
web
also
et
available
aussi
online.
sur les
They're
réseaux
also
sociaux. Vous allez
available in our
voir
offices, and
des
also on
arrêtés qui
social
sont un
media. You will see some
peu
bylaws.
plus délicats ou qui touchent des cordes sensibles. Ça arrive, puis c'est
If
normal.
they are
Il
controversial
y a des
bylaws, for
commentaires
example, we will discuss
on va
it,
voir des
and
commentaires dans les
sometimes
réseaux
you can
sociaux.
see comments over social
Il y
media.
a des processus aussi, il ne faut pas oublier, mais il y a des
And
processus
there are some
légaux là, en vertu de la loi
legal
provinciale en
processes,
matière
and
notarisation,
according to the provincial legislation, for example, for zoning, there are certain specific elements regarding public consultation. So the
qui représente la
urban
population,
planning board, it
qui
represents the
fait
public,
aussi
but
qui
this
fait des
committee
rapports, qui fait aussi des rapports
organizes meetings, and they also need to submit reports to council members. So do not hesitate to get in touch with City Hall if you're looking for any information regarding bylaws. I'm fortunate because today we have Tammy, and she's the manager of municipal bylaws. So we have a whole team that deals with bylaws. So she is very well aware of the bylaws and she could answer your questions. So here you can see a few examples of bylaws. So you need to remember that the bylaws are not necessarily enforceable on your territory, but through modifications and adoptions, they will become enforceable. And before they are applicable, we will need to ask questions. And for example, the Local Governance Act, it allows us to have differences on different territories of the city or different zones. So here you can see a list of examples of bylaws. So amongst the 82 bylaws that I mentioned earlier, so you can see here traffic and parking, dog control, roads, sidewalks and trails, traveling merchants and peddlers, excessive noise. There's also a bylaw about that. Dangerous or unsightly premises, outside fire or outdoor fires, and there are around 30 bylaws that could be relevant to you or that could become relevant over the next year. So you should keep checking the city's website. You should also check social media and our channels. And you can also get in touch with the city because we could provide you with more information. In the beginning, we will certainly accept questions and complaints. The bylaws are not necessarily enforceable at first, so we will provide notices or warnings at the beginning. So we're not going to give any fines in the beginning, and later on, when those bylaws become enforceable, you will be made aware and the complaints could be filed. You know, I talk about complaints, but we don't necessarily talk with fines. That's a measure of last resort because we need to go before the courts. You don't like it, but we don't like it either. So we start with awareness and education. So that's what you can expect over the next year. So this is my presentation for now, and I will now give the floor to Luc Richard. My name is Luc, and I'm the Deputy Chief Administrative Officer with the Operations and Community Living Division. So I need to talk to you about the great things in the city of Dieppe and why you pay taxes. So that's what I'm going to introduce. So you can maybe raise your hands. How many of you visited some of our recreational and sports facilities, arena or so on? So for those who already use our recreational and sports facilities, you know that they are of the highest quality and very clean because our staff is very proud of their work and in those installations or in those facilities. For those who are not familiar with our services, we invite you to take full advantage of them by starting with the brand new Uniplex building on College Street. It contains two ice surfaces offering free public skating and sledge field hockey, and this is completely free. We also have an indoor walking track. So no more excuses for not walking in the winter. Even if it's icy and cold, you can keep walking safely. We also have a community kitchen and greenhouse, as well as meeting rooms and an excellent bistro. So you can certainly visit this. We also have one of the most beautiful family-friendly pools in the province at the Dieppe Aquatic and Sports Center located not far from the food co-op, IGA. And we host a variety of meetings in our rooms, as well as parties of all kinds. And there's no age limit. even those that require several candles on their cake. For those of you with a four-legged family member, we offer one of the largest dog parks in New Brunswick, in the Lakeburn area, not far from the old airport terminal. And it seems that this place is also a great place for dog owners to socialize. Next door to the dog park is a disc golf course, also known as Frisbee Golf. And in this sector, there's a brand new cricket field that will officially welcome new sport members in the spring 2023. In the sector of Lakeburn, we also have the Boys and Girls Club with daycare and activities for the whole family. There's even an indoor climbing wall, and this will certainly be interesting for the most courageous members of the family. In addition to the Boys and Girl Clubs, teens also have plenty of activities offered by the Youth House. It's located close to the Mathieu Martin High School, and they have many facilities and outdoor infrastructure such as a skateboard park, a ball hockey field, and a volleyball court. That's all outside. Dieppe offers many sport fields for the practice of various leisure activities such as baseball, softball, soccer, ultimate frisbee, basketball, and many more. Not to be forgotten tonight is our new artifi- artificial turf multi-sport field located behind the Mathieu Martin School, which will allow for extended practice later in the fall and a quicker start in the spring. We also offer 6 tennis courts and soon a brand new pickleball facility. For those who know this sport well, there's quite the growth of this sport, and it will be located near the Arthur-J. Leblanc Center on Melançon Street. And speaking of this center, well, this building offers 2 ice surfaces, including an Olympic-sized ice surface, which is the host of our skating club, the Cyclones. So if we go across the street, not far from the AGL Center, we have the Saint-Anselme Rotary Park. So this is a great place to spend quality family time with its multiple picnic tables and shaded areas on sunny days. There are also raised community gardens for people who like to garden. So they're in boxes, but people who like to garden but not the backaches that come with traditional maintenance. For those who like to move around a bit more, at the Rotary Park, there is a traditional playground, including bocce ball, horseshoes, and shuffleboards. For the little ones, there is the coveted wheelchair accessible Rita McNeil playground and a popular splash park for those who want to beat the summer heat. Rotary Saint-Anselme Park offers many walking and biking trails. And more specifically, there's even a BMX track. Many young people and not so young people like to ride their BMX. And during the winter, there's an outdoor skating rink. We also have cross-country ski and snowshoe trails. They're incredible. They're recognized across the province. And as well, for those who like to slide, we have a safe hill for sliding. In addition to the Rotary Pavilion, which hosts some community meetings and lunches, the Scouts Club, they also have their own building that serves outdoor enthusiasts and scouts. not far from the Scouts Club Hall, a pathway links Rotary Park to the Doiron House. You might have heard about it. It's a new heritage facility in the municipality. And now we're in February, so it's free admission. So we invite you to visit it and to come and warm up with a hot beverage at the Café Inclusio. It's located in the basement of the building. So I talked about trails already, but our trail system, our whole system, it remains one of the jewels of the municipality with over 55 kilometers of trails. We have something for everyone. Please be advised that we are continuing our efforts to improve and extend our trail system. We do this annually, so we're providing more connections, trail connections to neighborhoods annually. And to learn more, you can consult our active transportation master plan. So it's available on our public participation platform at dialoguedieppe.ca. So you can view the report. Please know that this plan was developed prior to the annexation of the territory, so your territory is not included, but we are in the process of looking at how to integrate the needs of the new territory in the future in this master plan. In addition to the trails, we maintain several playgrounds and green spaces, and one of the most popular is Dover Park, which has a paved walking, biking, and inline skating trail. And some people use it also for exercise stations. There's a basketball court as well, and even a kite flying area because there's a kite flying club. So this is another organization in our community, and that's offered to you as well. So there's City Hall. So if anyone came here in person tonight, you can see how great the place 1604 is. So for those who have not yet visited our downtown, you will find many services, including City Hall, the library, the DM Market, the Arts and Culture Center. It's closed tonight, but it's still available for you. So there's a service and the offices as well. We also have cafes and a few restaurants. So this whole area, this is known as Place 1604, and it welcomes skaters to an oval that is also refrigerated in winter. And some people use it in the summertime for inline skating. And we also hold many family and cultural activities, such as the Wednesday show, music shows, winter fun, um, the Mandon Fête Festival, and Afrofest. So it's really the core of the downtown where we have all of our activities. So come and enjoy this space that belongs to you all year long, whether with family, friends, or alone. Not far from Place 1604, if we go across the street towards the Uniplex, we can find a music arts performance site. So did you hear already about the YQM country music concert? Well, this gathering place is for larger scale shows, such as YQM, that's the annual country music concert, the annual National Acadian Day celebrations on August 15, because we can welcome more people on that site. With everything that I already told you, as you may realize, Dieppe is a vibrant community. And this is not only because of the administration, but it's thanks to the contribution of a diverse community sector. This community involvement is strong, and We have dozens of volunteer groups, and it allows residents to get involved in various spheres of interest and or to benefit from countless opportunities to move or socialize in the community. So if you're already part of those organizations, congratulations and keep going. And if not, well, you can certainly find something that will interest you. So I was very brief. I shared many details, but there are even more details and information to share. And if you would like to know more, you can visit our website, dieppe.ca, and our dialoguedieppe.ca platform. Did I make any mistakes, Annie? No? So we invite you to stay tuned to what's happening in the municipality by subscribing to our news feeds and social media channels. For those of you who are not so keen on online tools, you should know that our quarterly newsletter is called Dieppe Mag, and it's now delivered to you 4 times a year at home. And this is a great opportunity to remain an informed citizen. So this publication is done through our communication services. So it is a pleasure to welcome you among us. Welcome to your home. We can answer your questions. At this point, I think I will give the floor to my colleague Angèle, if I'm not mistaken.
Donc, merci, Luc. Donc,
Well,
nous sommes
thank you,
sûrs que vous
Luc.
avez des
So
questions.
I'm
Si
sure that you
on
have
vous
some
invite à
questions for
vous
us.
lever
If
et
so, you can
poser vos
stand up
questions au micro,
and
vous
please ask your
présenter aussi.
questions to the mic. Also introduce
Donc, je ne
yourselves
sais
if
pas
you
s'il y a
can.
des gens qui
So
ont des
I'm not
questions.
sure if you have any questions to ask at this point. And you can ask your questions in English or in French.
Ok, bonsoir, merci pour, premièrement, merci pour la présentation. Excusez-moi.
First off, thank you for the presentation. I apologize for my phone. So I saw in the province's presentation and also about the taxation rate in terms of roads. My name is Ghislain Chouinard. So I live in La Fontaine subdivision. It's not far from city limits. So I'm wondering whether there is a conception of the provincial responsibility for roads. So will it be migrated to the city in the future? How will it work? Because when I look at the taxation rate for provincial roads, 41 cents, and I see Dieppe's rate, that is 21 cents. Yes, the houses are closer together, but when I see the state of our roads, I'm not necessarily proud. So I'm just wondering if you know what's going to happen with roads over the next few years. So for the moment, the provincial government says that they will maintain their responsibility for those roads. So there is no indication that this responsibility will be transferred to the city in the future. Thank you for the question. And I would like to add to this comment because this question was asked many times in the past because we need to acknowledge that road conditions, well, I travel on those roads as well. So this is a question that we will keep asking to the province. We have a certain infrastructure standards and we're proud to maintain quality infrastructure. So we will certainly send a message to the provincial government. We will continue sending this message. If they want to maintain the infrastructure, well, they need to respect a certain standards that we have at the city of Dieppe. And those comments are being made by all municipalities in the province. So we will keep working on this. And there's also a phone number that you can reach because you can communicate with the Minister for Transportation to report any road conditions. So we will continue making every effort to continue dealing with road maintenance, whether it's in the summer or winter, and we will find solutions with the provincial government. So we will keep up with those transition discussions. and we'll keep reviewing the white paper that was published
Merci pour
by
la
the
question.
province.
S'il y a d'autres
Thank
gens
you,
qui
Ma.
ont des
Thank you for
questions,
your
je vous
question.
invite à vous
If you have any more
présenter.
questions, you can come up to the mic and ask them.
Allô, moi c'est Jean-Sébastien Chasson.
My name is Jean-Sébastien Chiasson. I live in the Greater Lakebird area. So my question is just to see whether there are any intentions to expand the transit services to Scodook and Greater Lakebird. So I will give the floor to my colleague Luc Richard. Thank you, great question. So for transit services, this analysis will need to be conducted and is the same for active transportation and parks and trails. So we are carrying out a study and we just hired someone new in December, so it's part of his duties to see if there are any new possibilities to expand this service. So we don't have any answers to give you tonight, but we are studying all those possibilities.
Merci, Luc.
Thank you, Luc.
Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres questions?
Are there more questions at this stage?
Bonsoir, Robert, Greater Lakeburn.
My name is Robert and I come from Greater Lakebird. So I hear that the tax will increase in 5 years. So my question is about water and sewer services. So Greater Lakebird, we don't receive those water and sewer services. And for Book Street, I know that this is a controversial topic. So what are your intentions for people who paid more money? And I think that there's a pumping station that was just added. Was it because of us? So I'm just wondering what's going to happen for those who don't necessarily receive the water and sewer services. So those are excellent questions, and I would certainly ask the same questions if I were in your shoes and if I needed to integrate this great community. So the complexity of all those issues is that we need to look at all of our master plans for the services and integrate the new territory for all the services that we provide. So earlier you talked about transit services. There's also the trail network. There might be a new playground in the future on the new territory, and now water and sewer services. So we need to think about the capacity for our services because we have some capacity limits, and this also goes with the annexation of the territory. So we need to look at all of our master plans and see if we have the ability to serve this greater territory. And if we don't have it today, how can we do it in the future? And roads, well, they belong to the provincial government. So those can be part of the discussions that we have with the provincial government. So all that to say that this is part of our work to plan all of our services, to think of future perspectives, the territory that was added, and now we need to have a global perspective. So this can't be done overnight. So the integration of the taxation rate over 5 years, it will allow us to have this capacity to invest some funds so that we can better plan our development. So I know I'm not giving you a date, but we need to plan accordingly because we have a new territory to serve. For some areas, it might be possible, and other areas, there will be more challenges, but we can look at all those costs in the future. And if there's anything else, you can add to my comments. So this is a little bit of a political answer. So the intention, is it to say, yes, we would like to provide those services, or, I like my water well, so is your intention to offer those water and sewer services? Is that your intention? So we have a deadline. So we're also looking at the engineering services. You mentioned the Book Street, but it's important for us to think about water flows and so on. So there were reasons for doing this. So our new borders do not include this new territory for now. It's not the intention to do it right away. Maybe in the future it will. I'm not sure if this is helpful. And I would like to add one last thing. I can't speak for other communities, but you know, if there are any opportunities to take care of a project, while for roads, we will wait for the provincial government to decide if it changes in the future. But if we have a trail network or a playground that we want to create, we will talk with people in the neighborhood. So we share ideas and we're listening to people. So that's one thing that we will commit to doing. And doing this. We've been doing this for 70 years now at the city of Dieppe. But thank you for adding this comment about the boundaries. And now we will look at the future for the global plan.
Merci, Marc.
Thank you, Marc. Did you have a question?
My name is Ryan. I live in Lakeburn. A couple of questions. One, so I have an MLA in Lakeburn, I guess, prior to January 1st. So is my MLA still my representative there? Is it council from Dieppe now, or?
That's a good question. I'm gonna let one of my colleagues answer.
That's something that hasn't changed. So guess what? Now you get 2 for 1.
Okay, great.
Okay.
All right.
That's the way it works out. So essentially, your provincial representative, your MLA is the same person. We work very closely with our MLAs because we're always knocking at their door, trying to improve our community, and we'll continue to do that. And sometimes we land on friendly government, and other times on a less friendly government. And unfortunately, that's part of the game of political side of the thing that I absolutely hate, but that's the way it works. So
will this be the process after the new municipal elections in 4 years too, or will the MLA part of that be faded out?
I would say if anything's going to happen to our communities, we're going to get an extra MLA at some point in time. But at the rate of growth that we're at right now, with over 31,000 people now part of Dieppe, there's a lot. It's a big debate across the province right now because a lot of the communities are on the downslope of population, whereas we're continue to grow our population. So in terms of representation, that's fair. Memram Cook has just decided they wanted to join Dieppe for the purpose of riding, because right now they're with Sackville and they don't really connect too much with Sackville, where they're in our backyard. They
Right.
we collaborate with them on a lot of files. So like I said, I suspect if anything's going to happen for us, we're not going to, before too long, there's going to be 3 MLAs for Dieppe, but that's just me.
All right. In regards to the local service district tax rate, the Greater Lakeburn and the Scook rates is about a 17% difference right now. What could you elaborate? Do you know what the difference is? Why is one side of TransCanada 17% higher in the local service district tax rate than the other side?
No idea.
That's the province.
That's a province. That's the
It's a provincial.
It's not something that we've had anything to do with. If anything, obviously, as it's been presented by Stéphane, our finance director of finance, when you go through the process that we had to go through, it's impacting us, just the same as it's impacting you guys more directly. We have to deal with it. We didn't ask for this. You didn't ask for this. But that's what the province decided to do for their, I would say, they're dumping on the municipalities is what they're doing. They're walking away from some of their responsibilities. We know how much on the north side of the province, in Tracadie, it's been an absolute disaster, which is one of the reasons why they decided they're going to keep the roads, because in Tracadie, they gave the roads to the municipality and they've got so much mileage and they gave them practically nothing to look after it. So it's going to be a debate for quite some time between the municipal and provincial people in terms of who looks after what. Right now, there's some rules that have been put in place, but I suspect it's going to be probably for 5 to, and I don't know, okay, but I'm thinking 5 to 7 years before they try to, to get us to accept more, because they're, they don't like to spend. Nobody likes to spend. So the easiest way is to dump it on somebody else, right?
So that 41 cents for roads that you talked about earlier, was that the provincial part that was totally? So like people on a non-maintained road, like there's some roads part of this annex into Dieppe, there is some roads that are public non-maintained. They don't plow them, they don't do anything with them, but any resident on it is still getting charged the 41 cents for a maintained road. That's nothing to do with the Dieppe part here, that's provincial only.
No.
So you get to collect
and you're not getting the service, right? So,
all right.
So we run into that with what's called provincial designated highway, okay? Like Champlain Mall, Champlain Street, excuse me, not Mall, but Champlain Street, right? The road is in terrible shape. We're ready. We've had money set aside for the last 3 to 5 years, ready to redo that stretch. But we need a partner. They don't seem to be hearing the music. They don't want to dance, but that's because right now we have 2 liberal MLAs. So guess what, right? The game is being played. So I'm one of those guys that says we should have one red and 1 blue. If we got 2, split the wealth, then we, but that doesn't make me very popular with the liberals right now. But but in the best interest of the community, that's basically what it should be. That's how Moncton got away with getting so much from they always have an MLA on both sides, so they always have somebody that's in power.
I understand.
That can influence the process. But I'm not a politician. I just that's the worst insult you can ever call me, a politician.
All right, thank you very much.
I said a lot more than I should, but it is what it is.
Hello.
Hello, my name's Don Demkew. I'm a retired engineering officer for the Department of National Defense. I lived on Melanson Road for over 20 years. I've got a few questions, but I got a little bit of an opening statement as I was sitting there. I kind of feel like I walked into a car dealership looking to buy a new car, and instead of getting the new car, they started selling me a used car and threw up all these numbers and explained to me why I now have to pay twice for that used car when I wanted the new car. That's how I feel. The numbers came in pretty quick and heavy. I still have some questions about them, not very clear. But I want to address a couple little questions first. I hope maybe to warm me up. This is the 3rd meeting I've been here in about 2 months. The last meeting, I sat down there and I asked about if you were going to force us to go with the fire that we had to burn. We couldn't do the 3 meters by 3 meters by 2 meters burns to get rid of our, because most of us have acreage. The fire chief was on my right. I believe the mayor was here. And he said, at this time, we have no plans to change that. And I just heard today one of my neighbors had a fire in January, and the police department came with 5 firemen, put out his fire because you're not allowed to burn in Dieppe, and the bylaw officer came. So which is it? Can we burn or can we not burn?
So right now we have a bylaw for burning for a fire pit.
Right now, it's not applicable to your area. So if you burn and if we receive a complaint, we will visit and explain that there is a bylaw. However, you will not receive a ticket from us, a bylaw infraction ticket right now.
But they'll put out the fire.
That's the fire department. Yeah,
Okay.
that would be the fire department. Yeah,
Okay.
but you won't receive a ticket from us at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'd like to thank all of you from the city showing up, especially those that may be paid employees, especially to you. I've never seen anybody so energetic, and I hope you were not a used car salesman before you got into this line, but you're doing a hell of a good sales job on this. So I did want to mention that. Even more important than the increase in taxes that we're all going to be facing, and I'm sure a lot of you are in the same boat as you received. For us, we've received, I think it's a $60,000 increase, which represents about a 30% increase in taxes. And that probably weighs on us all the most. I have a bit, I guess, of an issue right now. I don't know if you can comment, but I'm going to ask you to comment if you can at all. And that's about the asphalt plant that got built in Dieppe. Some people here might not know about it, but it has been built without a permit, and they did operate it. I believe it is closed right now, but it hasn't been taken down. Is there any news on that, on where that stands?
So it was brought in front of the Comité Consultation d'Urbanisme, the planning committee, and the planning committee had put restrictions in place which made it inoperable, which made it so that the asphalt plant could not operate. So that's why it was shut down. It is being contested, so we will see what the decision brings.
Okay, so currently that is in place, and I can only assume that their tanks are full of fuel. As you probably can appreciate, these are not the safest pieces of equipment. In fact, after the first meeting when this came out, I think within 2 days there was an explosion and fire in PEI and an asphalt plant. And the last meeting, which was to deal with the amalgamation, there was, I think a couple days later, or maybe there was the night after, there was a fire and explosion in Riverview from the asphalt plant. So currently that site is locked when it's not in service with a locked gate. Right now it's relatively safe because of all the snow on the ground. I'm directly downwind from it. My concerns come this spring. This probably won't be resolved, but that plant will be sitting there. I do not know if somebody is not happy with asphalt plants and setting them on fire. I am concerned that if it does happen, that if it moves off the property, because right now it's fairly close to the property line, and it's 500 feet from the road and the nearest hydrant. I'm wondering if there's been any consideration about should that gate be locked in case there is a fire, if the fire department can get in there. It may be, I know you probably can't answer, but maybe somebody could look at that. Might save some of us a headache come spring, summer when it dries out.
Yeah, I have taken note of your comments.
Yeah.
I can assure you that our fire department, if they need to get to a site, they will take the measures necessary to gain access.
Okay.
But I have taken note of your
Okay,
comments.
thank you very much. I tried to do some research on this, and I had the paper from December 2nd and my own taxes. So I had to prepare a statement. So some of it might not be as accurate, but this is the best I could do on the time frame. So all our assessments have gone up. In our case, it's been $60,000 or approximately 30%. Sorry, I'm getting old and I can't read that well. You have stated you are decreasing your current landowner's rate by 7.9 cents or 5%. However, you are increasing our initial one for Greater Lakeburn by approximately 12% from my math. This is in addition to the 30% increase. Can you be a little bit more transparent why we are not being extended at least this 5% courtesy that you're offering your old taxpayers? Since the city's enjoying a windfall, which they are, because I'm not sure what the rate are, ours are 30%, and I looked through some of them, some are actually greater than that. So why isn't that 5% being extended to us, even though it is in fact a token? If the prices are going up some 30% for all your city, that directly transfer to increased budget for the city to run the city.
The decision to treat taxpayers differently is worrisome. You decrease the tax burden slightly for your old homeowners while welcoming your new homeowners with an additional 12% increase. And in fact, as what we've seen here, it almost looks like a doubling over the 5 years. Quite frankly, those items that you said, they are nice. You have some nice infrastructure. We've been here 20 years, we're retired, we have no kids, we don't use them. Most of those infrastructure are available to somebody visiting from Ottawa that can go in, pay a small service fee. Just like I don't have to pay taxes for Shediac, it becomes questionable, and it's more difficult. We live further out. We chose to live in these places because they weren't in the city. We didn't want these for our kids. Most of us, probably our kids are long gone. But these increases, not only yours, by doubling this portion of it, and not really, I haven't heard anything new. I haven't heard anything increase in services. And it's very difficult for me to see the numbers and see any translation in benefit, if you can follow what I'm saying. So I'm wondering why you're putting this out and saying, well, really you should be paying twice what you're doing right now. We're really not going to provide you any extra services, but you can use our park. Well, that, I know as much energy you put into it, it does fall a little flat. The numbers look like a bit of a shell game, saying, you know, we got to kind of justify why we're about to double their tax on this portion. And the roads are going to stay the same. They're not going to get water, so that means the fire, which they already got anyhow, there was agreements. They're still going to have to wait longer, and if their house is on fire, we don't have fire hydrants, so we still have to transport it, which means your house will probably burn down, just like before, but will probably save your neighbors. That's 300-400 feet apart. So I haven't heard anything about it. We have a chip seal road. Some have even worse. I don't see anything mentioned about the improvement, and you're saying it's down a year, but even that is it's not required. I don't see the justification, unfortunately, for doubling that tax rate. My wife told me to take this one out, so I'll take it out. There was I said, please explain to us country folk how this is fair. Will you be decreasing our rate by the 5% that you're offering your own taxpayers to others in Dieppe? There's also in recent press releases, this one here, and I was trying to figure it out from what you were saying there, that it's kind of like, just kind of put there, said that, well, we will also get another tax rate which represents what the province is giving us. So it's not a 12% increase, is it? Or is it actually plus whatever the province is going to charge to maintain our roads? Because they also charge, because they were maintaining before, there was a separate provincial cost, but the way I worded it, it's not clear, and I didn't see any clarification on any of your slides.
So I'll piggyback a little bit as what the mayor actually mentioned earlier. We didn't choose that, and you guys didn't choose that. Essentially, you guys all received a document today that mentioned exactly how the tax has been calculated. Everybody else in Dieppe will pay 77 cents for the service, shared services. You guys will pay 54. You get a rebate right now. I know you guys take it as it is an increase, but at the end, you are part of a new community now, and the tax rate is actually different. So regardless that we actually decrease our, because we were at, before we were at 153, now we are down at 146. We are at a starting point with you guys. So now the new, it's new rules, and those rules has been established by the province. And again, they are detailed in that report that I gave you early, or you picked up, yeah. So that's why I understand your frustration. It's not fun. Taxes has increased. Trust me, to calculate all those numbers, I wasn't happy as well, because that actually increased on my burden, because it's actually something totally new. We never did that before. But that's how we had to go and comply with the government and calculate the tax rate. Now, those increases, obviously, it'll take 5 years before it gets to full motion or full numbers, but you can really rely on one decrease and the other one increase because it's a starting point essentially. Because yeah, as my Mark just mentioned, right now they have been calculated with a tax rate of 146. Portion of that is that 77 cents. If we would have stayed at 153, then that 76 cents would have been maybe 80 or 82. So it would have been even higher for you guys. So it's all proportionate.
So the thing about the evaluation. So in your presentation, really appreciate it. You talk about the evaluation, right, of the properties. Again, we have nothing to do with that. Okay, it comes from the province. Everybody, including everybody in Dieppe, has landed with a higher evaluation of the properties and and buildings on the properties. So that's again nothing to do with us.
With all due respect, and I do appreciate you coming here, but if that's the case and this is being forced on us, then if you're saying that as a defense, there should be a representative from the province to hear our concerns, and there's not, right? So that's what I would say in return. Long-term thinking, the amount of rate, and I also do understand wasn't brought up, and people should, there's a cap, right? That's still going to be put in that it can't be increased by more than 10%, and if you're a senior, 8%, if I'm not mistaken, correct? Yeah, I think that's how it works out. But the thing is, it's like a piggy bank. So if it goes up 20% last year and your rate goes up 10, but it goes down 10% next year, it's still going to go up 10% because you still owe. The long term, for maybe some, and we've seen this in other cities, and I'm not going to ask you to correct this. This is a problem, and it's a problem because of what's been going on in Canada, in the world, with quantitative easing and devaluing our dollar. But what it could possibly and likely means for some of the people here is they're going to be priced out of their houses. You cannot sustain increasing the tax rate at 10%. I'm sure I'm not the only retired member here, and even if you're working, you're not going to get those kind of increases. That's what you're looking at. You're looking at, you have a homeless problem already. You're going to have people that have worked their entire lives, paid for a place in the country. Now they're in the city. The valuations are going up. Their dollar is devalued. They won't be able to afford to stay in their homes. That's the long-term effect. You look at the numbers, it's not sustainable. And there has to be some hard looking at that at all levels. We, I guess in some way, are the sheep to be fleeced, but the sheep after a while don't have any more. They'll borrow and then they'll sell and go wherever they can. And if they're on the streets, then you're looking at them and having them 50 people into a room. That's, not everybody's going to have that, but if these are the kind of the rates that we're looking at, and you're selling us this idea that we're getting the same what we had before, but we're paying twice for it, and we're going to be paying twice for it in 5 years when it comes time. And some people might not say it. Hopefully, I'm saying it enough for everybody here. But something seems very wrong. This is very wrong with passing that over and selling it to us. It's not being sold. Is it? I had another question that comes up because you said the numbers were in here, and I still don't know what I'm going to pay for taxes, and those numbers you put up there don't seem to be in this handout. I think before you said that Dieppe was a French community. Is it French or bilingual?
It's a French community that offers services in both official languages.
So the last time you have, and I questioned it, because you offered some in English and some in French, which was nice. Though there were some hiccups, I did find that, and I noticed it again tonight, but I'll talk to your audio visual on that. But I would suggest that if you're offering the English translations, that you put up your things in English as well, so we can follow a little clearer. It just makes it a little bit more inclusive.
Slides.
Just a suggestion, and you have to work
the slides.
The slides.
Yeah, okay.
But I'll talk to the AV about hopefully improving, because what they're doing is broadcasting the person talking in French at the same time as English, and it's difficult, especially when people then were asking questions that don't like, and it's frustrating, and most people will just take it, but it's not a happy experience when you, in your head, it's all reverberating, and you got two language, you can't hear anything that's going on.
Noted.
Okay, thanks very much for listening.
Thank you.
So I'm guessing we're not the only people that you've inherited woodland. We have woodland within the city limits now. And I'm wondering what restrictions you're going to put on harvesting with respect to roads and clear cutting.
Who wants this one?
I'll give you a background on that.
Yeah, please.
We own land, the Burgesses own land behind the Lakeburn, the old Lakeburn sawmill.
Yeah.
We have no real access in there. We have access, but we need to put a road in there. So went through the Department of Environment, we have to go across the wetland. They told us that you guys only, when it comes to roads, will only accept an engineered drawing or an engineered road the same as a street. So I never got past the Department of Environment. We did do the delineation of the wetland, and then we would have had to do an environmental impact study. It's just money after money after money to get a woods road in there, basically. So we have access to a property which would be a whole lot better going across that wetland. It's a hydro line now. It's tore up by four-wheelers and skidoos, and would make it so much easier for everybody to get across it, including fire service.
The properties you're referring to, are they currently located inside the old city limits?
No.
They're part
You're
of the
going to
new
be-
territory that's being.
You've inherited them.
Okay.
It's
have
part
no-
of the Melanson Road circle there.
Okay.
Right behind the MacArthur owns the property now.
Okay. I don't have an answer for you tonight. I did take some notes and we can look into it further. We are working on a bylaw to try and manage to have a better tree coverage in the city, because as you know, when we get more and more development, we don't want to lose all the trees in the city. However, we are looking at possibly treating the existing or the old limits differently than the new area that's being amalgamated, or that has been amalgamated. Unfortunately, I don't have a clear answer for you tonight.
I wouldn't worry about trees. They grow every day.
Take a long time, but yes. Any other questions? D'autres questions?
Moi, j'avais juste un commentaire, c'est que...
So I have one comment. So I live on a vacant lot on Lake Burn. So we've been burning fires at the same time for many years. So the firemen got there, they extinguished the fire, and then it was over. So it was small, it was just, there were no fires around, there was snow all around. We were always logical about it. So that's my comment about that situation. Well, thank you for your comments.
C'est noté, puis on va en parler avec.
So we marked it down and we will talk about it. When we ask a question, it's good to have an answer. So we're going to mark it down, because if it's outside the limits, we can't impact it with our bylaws, because they're still not being enforced. So that should not have happened because the bylaws are still not enforceable on the new territory. Inaudible, please use the mic. Inaudible. Yes, so we will conduct the follow-up with our fire services. Yes, I understand, and thank you for your comments. So within the limits of the city, you know, this is a frequent debate and it comes up often enough. So when you have a fire in the winter time, I'm sorry? You know, there is some monitoring, but yes, it's noted.
Any further questions? Questions?
Any further questions? So I wanted to know who will be our counselor on the territory. You said that there are 2 counselors here tonight. Are they our counselors? Is it 4 or 5 or? So for him, it's Ward 5. We're in Greater Lakeburn. So will we be Ward 4 or 5? Do we have the map? So I'm just wondering who will represent us. So the boundaries were represented by the province. So yes, you have 2 representatives. And one document will be added online, so you can input your address and then you can see what will be your ward. So we're preparing this, and you will have access to this information once we can share it. So it will be more simple for you. On the website, we have a new map that was adopted. So if you know your address and you can find it on the map, then you will be made aware of your ward, okay?
Just for clarification, whenever I asked about the different rates, the LSD rates for Scook and Lakeburn, if I understood correct, that's a rate designed by the province, and the roads, that 41 cents, that's by the province, and the assessments, property value assessments is by the province. Does Dieppe have, I guess, does Dieppe have the discretion though? So the assessed value is basically handed to you, and the rate for the local service district is handed to you. So for instance, your home goes up 40% a year. If the tax rate stayed the same, well, then your tax bill is going to go up by the 40%. Does Dieppe itself then have the discretion or the authority to reduce their tax rate accordingly, so that your pocket will still kind of be the same because you're just getting a smaller percent of a much larger number? So basically, I understood the province is kind of handed to you a number. So
that's what we've done the last 2 years. So the assessment generates new revenue for the city. So the last 2 years, we've brought down our tax rate. So that's where, when we know the numbers that we will receive as new revenue for the next year. So usually we get those numbers in September for 2024, for example. So at that time, you know how much money we have, new revenue, and then that's a debate and discussion between the team to what new services, or what added value we want to bring to the city. Then we make recommendation to council, and then that's the time that we determine with council approval the tax rate. So we bring a recommendation. If we generate more revenue by devaluation, like the last 2 years, we brought the tax rate down because we know that, and we all feel it, we all pay tax. We know that if there's a higher evaluation, bringing the tax rate down alleviates a little bit the pain of a tax increase. So yes, we do that.
So on the provincial side, there's no, what's the avenue on the provincial, like I said?
So the message from the province.
A non-maintained road where I'm paying road maintenance.
So the message from the province was evaluation was getting higher, municipalities were getting more revenue, so we should get the tax rate lower, but they have not done the same thing. So just saying.
That's out of this jurisdiction. It's just a
So,
whole separate
We
topic,
work in
right?
that context.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Sorry, I'm not supposed to be politics, so.
That's my job. That's my job.
Any more questions? D'autres questions? On est ici aussi longtemps qu'il y a des questions.
We're here for as long as there's questions. So, I don't know if the mayor has a word in closing, but personally, I'd like to tell you that over the next 3 to 5 years, how we can best integrate this new territory into our development plan, into our master plan. How can we add services, the services that we owe you through your taxes? That's part of our mandate. How to better offer services to the whole Dieppe territory, including Greater Lakeburn and that part of Scoudouc. That's a part of our duty to bring recommendations, to develop plans in order to integrate this new territory, and that so that you can see a higher level of service over the next few years. That's my word in closing. Mr. Mayor? Well, similarly,
we're proud of what we've built so far as a city. I think Dieppe is generally recognized as a forward thinker and an action forward amongst the communities in our province. Je pense qu'il n'y a aucun doute de ce côté-là.
I don't think there's any doubt in terms of that. Dieppe is recognized as being a very forward-looking city with tax rates that are amongst the lowest in the province.
Within the world of municipal government, we are amongst the lowest tax rate. When you start looking up north and northeast and northwest in this province, and you look at what they're getting for what in some cases is like $1.75 to almost pushing on the $2 rate, and they're losing population. They're not moving forward. We're pretty proud of the work that's been done by staff and by councils and by our citizens to move our community forward. I think, obviously our hands are tied in some of on some of those numbers. As Mark mentioned, on a réduit nos taux de taxes les 2 dernières années.
We've reduced our tax rate over the last 2 years.
Reduced our taxes over the last 2 years and have done so, while at the same time, because of the growth that we're facing, it's allowed us also to pay down debt. We are amongst the lowest debt ratio in the province, so we have that ability, and we have that flexibility to, and that's the intention of council, I think in general, to continue in the same direction, treat everybody as fair as possible. A lot of notes have been taken down. You're not always going to like the answer, but you'll get an answer, and hopefully we'll come to some kind of. We have to live with this thing, both que ce soit vous autres ou nous autres. On va devoir apprendre à travailler.
We have to learn to work together for the betterment of the whole community.
We hear what you're saying. In areas where we can act, I can assure you we will act. Particularly concerned over the asphalt plant. We're going to certainly pursue that, get an update on where we're at with that legally. Somebody tried to pull a fast one. That's the bottom line. So that hopefully the justice system will see it in the same way as we see it. So thank you very much. I think she wants to have the last word. Same thing happens to me at home.
Merci, Monsieur le Maire.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you to all of you for having coming here this evening.
we don't have all the answers, but we appreciate your time. Si vous avez d'autres questions, if you
If
have
you have
other
any other questions, send an email to info@dieppe.ca or just call 877-900. Do you have that information in your handouts?
If you need to reach us. If you have questions, we will get back to you. So thank you. And there's also gifts, small gifts as you leave. You can pick them up on the tables. Donc des petits cadeaux à l'extérieur de la salle.
Just a little gift to thank you on your way out. Oh, we've
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. Have a good evening.